Welcome back to the channel. Today we're back in front of the LG C2 and I want to get into something that I noticed here recently, and I'm not sure if it was something that was changed in a firmware update, but there's definitely something going on. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So let me pull up the game optimizer real quick. We're going to go over to all settings. Under picture, we're going to go to advanced settings. And what I want to talk about is the color. Something is going on with the color from a recent update, because this definitely was not happening in the past. So really what I'm wanting to talk about is this fine tune and color adjustment. Now you notice I have this off now, and that's for the purposes of testing. Normally I keep this on medium because I like the little extra color pop, and I can tell you for a fact that when I first got this TV, again, I don't know what firmware this changed because, I hadn't gone in here and messed around with this, but somewhere along the way, something has changed with the color adjustment under fine tuning here, because look, you notice this says off. Now I want you to pay attention to the yellow box down here, because this will be the easiest way for you to tell if there's a change in the color. Now, before whatever firmware changed this, I could come in here and see a noticeable difference between off and high. Now, I usually would keep it on medium. That gave me a nice little color bump, make stuff like the yellows and the reds pop a little more. And I know that that might come with maybe a tad more, input lag or latency or whatever for my gaming, but I was willing to accept that because I wanted to have a little more color pop. So let's go ahead and dive in here. So you notice it's off. Now I'm gonna go from off to high, and you tell me on camera if you're able to tell any difference at all. That's high, off, high, back to off. So for me in person, I'm looking at this on camera, the yellow definitely looks a lot more muted on camera than it does in person. This yellow is fairly bright. But the thing that I'm noticing here is that when I go from off to high, I should see the most noticeable difference right here. And when I click the high button, in person, I'm not seeing any change at all. So again, I don't know what's going on with this specific part of the color adjustment, or when you want to make changes to colors in your games for more pop. I don't know what changed and what firmware it changed, but definitely something is different. So if you have an LG C2, or maybe this is impacting the C1 as well, but if you have an LG C2, drop a comment below and let me know if you ever go in and change these settings and you're noticing the same thing. So the reason why I have it off is because if I'm not getting the color bump from having it on medium or even high, and I am also taking in a little bit more input lag for the processing, then there's no point in having it on, because I'm not going to take the extra input lag if it's actually doing that without the the benefit of the color bump. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Now let's back out of here. You notice everything's kind of grayed out here. Now let's go into color gamut. Now you notice I have this on auto detect. That's typically where I would leave it, but let's see if we go through any of these and it impacts that same yellow box. So we're going to click on native. Okay, in person I see it get a little more yellow, a little more saturated. Dynamic, native and dynamic, there's no change, at least from what I can see in person. Adobe RGB, okay, the yellow became a lot more muted. So let's go and dynamic, Adobe RGB. Okay, so there's definitely a color shift going on here. When you go to Adobe, the yellow and the other colors become a lot more muted. Dynamic, it gets more saturated, not overly saturated in my opinion, looks okay. But there is a change at least happening. Now native and dynamic, I'm not seeing anything going on here. And when I go back to auto detect, I see it mute just a little bit more. The yellow kind of dials back just a little bit. So I'm gonna leave that there for now. But kind of the purpose on this video was I just came across this. Leave a comment below if you've noticed this in a past firmware, or if you're seeing the same thing. This is pretty disappointing to me, because again, I'm willing to accept a little bit more input lag or whatever, even playing a game like Call of Duty, with the benefit of a little more color bump. I wanted my colors to have a little more punch. I was willing to accept that. So I had that set on medium and was very happy. And from time to time, I'll come in and just kind of manipulate settings to see if there's anything changed. And lo and behold, I'm noticing that that color adjustment menu, there's not a lot going on there between off and high. So something's definitely up there. But if you did enjoy the video, consider dropping a like on it. It really helps out the channel. If you're new here, appreciate you watching. Consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification. And until the next one.